Time now for Voices of the Future, the show that amplifies the perspectives of the next generation of Republican leaders, young professionals, students, and policymakers who champion the values of limited government, free enterprise, and individual liberty. From grassroots activism to tech-driven policy debates, this program is your front row seat to the ideas shaping a freer, stronger America. Now, your host for Voices of the Future, Ardis Jackson.
Hello, everyone. This is Ardis Jackson. Welcome to Young Conservative Voices. It is good to see you guys again. Quite a bit has happened in my life personally, but, I'm picking myself up and getting through it each day. And I will say that the weather here has been really hot and been dealing with that here in the Bay Area. But fall is around the corner, and I'm excited about that. I just had a newborn son, so that's taking a great part of my time now, but it's a great time to have, a great responsibility to have, and it's teaching me to be a better father and leader to my child, and that leads me into today's topic today. Today's topic is going to be about what makes a great leader in America. I feel like we need to have more discussions when it comes to what makes great leaders in America today. It can be confusing, especially for us young people, to who we look to guidance for on that. Some of us look to our parents, obviously. Some of us look to, church leaders, either political leaders or even celebrities or influencers. Either way, we want to see and make sure that they are giving us the best leadership. And we want to try to get back to having that discussion in America where we can have discussions about what makes great leaders again. I feel like we've kind of went off kilter on that, in that regard. I want to talk a few minutes about who is a great leader to me in America. This is a historical figure. I truly admire George Washington from his ability to maintain unity as a military general and president, and how he was able to get everyone to rally behind him to be a leader. I think his unanimous election as president showcased his leadership ability to everyone, and a lot of the founding fathers themselves said that, he was the only best person that they could all get around. They had a lot of division and arguments over who would be best for America at that time, and they had a lot of disagreements. But the one thing they all agreed on was that Washington was the best leader, and they all rallied behind him. And I think also another thing that made Washington very remembered to his peers and to America in general is how he was willing to step away from power. I think we can contrast that to today political environment, or basically any environment, even if it's like in, your boss at work, or a professor at your college. People who have authority are unwilling to step away from power. And I think that makes him such a unique character in history and a leader for America at the time, because he was willing to voluntarily step away from power. He could have taken as much power as he wanted. He could have been king, but he decided not to do that. He wanted to be held accountable to the people. And so those are just some of the qualities that I like about Washington. I think it's what makes him timeless as far as history goes. And I think we as Americans we can learn quite a bit from Washington and the example he set, not only as a military officer, but as our first president as well. And so I want to spend the next few minutes talking about some qualities that I believe make a great leader great in America. You can have a lot of people telling you what to do, but few people, in my opinion, exhibit the qualities that really makes a leader in today's society that people actually want to be led by. So I'm going to list some qualities that I think that will make a leader. If you take these qualities and you put them into your own life, if you have a desire to be a leader, this will make people want you to lead them instead of you having to try to seek people to lead. I will say that one of the most biggest things that a leader needs to have today, and someone, it was a quality that Washington had as well, was to be fearless and stand up for what you believe in and the right thing. And that means even doing it when it's not popular. It can be really hard to, lead by your own voice, lead by your own heart in today's society. There's a lot of peer pressure, especially for us young people. We have a lot of that peer pressure coming from influencers, online influencers, our college professors, even just people within our friend group. And sometimes these people are not leading us in the right direction. And sometimes we just have better ideals on how to lead. And sometimes there's also things that you truly believe in, that you're passionate about, but you're too afraid to actually speak out on it because you don't want to offend people. We're in a time nowadays where people get easily offended, and that can be used to control how other people can express themselves. So I think a leader who's willing to buck that trend and is willing to say, look, I'm going to speak out, even if it's not popular, even when people are saying I'm crazy or delusional or it offends people and stuff like that. Sometimes things need to be said. And I think someone like Washington, who was, again, willing to put his life on the line, his reputation on the line for a cause that, was untested at that time. And there's a lot of people, I'm sure we all know, at least one person, whether it be a parent or a grandparent or maybe a sibling, but someone who is like, I'm going to speak out and defend this because this is the right thing to do. And I think those are things we should all look for in leaders. And we should also not allow people to, even those that are closest to us, to influence us in that regard as well. If you truly believe in something and it's something that you really care about and you really feel like this is something you're right about, you need to speak out about it, and you need to let others know they can't persuade you and bully you into something that you don't want to do or believe in. I would also like to take a few minutes to talk about how a leader should put others first. This is a quality that's becoming rarer and rarer now. We see a lot of leaders who put themselves first because they see themselves as the first. They see them as the leader. And so everything has to start with them and then it goes to everyone else. But I think that if you can put others first and be selfless, like Washington put the country first above his desires to live a simple life in Mount Vernon. That was a desire he wanted to do, but he put the well-being of the country first. And that in regard made people respect him as a leader because it showed that he actually cared about them. And so I would say this as well. If you are wanting to be a leader, you should try to put others first. I know that's controversial in today's society where everything is about self-care, self-love, doing what's right only for you. But if you truly have a heart or learn to have a heart to put others first, you will be a great leader and you will have people wanting to be led by you. And so I would also like to say a true leader should inspire those around him or her. A leader should want to be better versions of themselves as true leaders. So in that regard, if you have people around you, whether you are a teacher or a parent, anyone, if you are in a leadership position, you should be wanting to inspire people around you, make them want to be better versions of themselves, and actually saying, like, I look up to this person. I want to be like this person. This person makes me want to be a better person. Another personal inspiration of mine was my mom. My mom was a great inspiration to me. She made me want to be led by her, and she always was overcoming challenges and always allowing others to know how she truly felt. She was fearless, even going up against, situations where, this person clearly could have caused great harm to our mom. If they did anything harmful to us, our mom was not afraid to speak out on it. And to this day, my mom continues to inspire me. And I'm sure all of you guys have someone that's like that as well. Even if they're not in your immediate circle, it could be someone you follow online. It could be it could be a musician whose music speaks to you. But if you have someone that inspires you, you should want to be led by that person. And if you seek to be a leader, then you should actually want to inspire others. And if you're inspiring other people, they're going to in turn want to be led by you, and they're going to want to be like you. And I think that's another good quality that leaders in America should have more of today. I feel like we are missing a lot of that from our current governor, to many of our political leaders in Washington. A lot of them are just making rules and making laws, but we don't look at them and be like, man, I want to be like them. I will say our current president was someone that I was very inspired by, especially with the assassination attempt on him. That was a moment where in the heat of the moment, I was like, yeah, that's someone I want as a leader. When he got up and pumped his fist in the air after being nearly assassinated and was willing to be like, I'm going to fight, no matter what. I think that isn't a good example of how a leader rallied people, even people who didn't like him, people who may not have thought about voting for him ever, put their support behind him, because that was really inspiring. And so I would also say that leaders should also, I would say leaders, and this is a topic that we don't really talk about as much anymore, but leaders in America should bring unity. And I know in a partisan environment today, that can be very difficult to do. But I feel, again, Washington was someone who had the unity of people who agreed with him and disagreed with him, and he kept the country together. And I think that often gets overlooked when people think of unity today. They think of, oh, well, that means I have to compromise myself, or this other person has to compromise who they are, to form unity. But a lot of times we don't realize that we can make unity from our differences. Our differences don't have to be the only thing that divide us. Our differences can make us united as well. I would say an example would be I think school shootings is something that's a good opportunity. I know that's a macabre topic, but these are things that no one wants their children suffering from gun violence. And Democrats say this, Republicans say this, and oftentimes we as young people, we just have to pick who people around us say is the right direction to go. But I think we can learn something if we can all learn how to bring what you have, your strengths and your strengths together, and then compromise on it. So I do think that's something we should try to bring back in America, is unity as a people and as a country. I would also say that a leader should be mature, and that can be difficult in today's environment as well. I would say, like, an example can be, I don't think that online tweeting back and forth or name calling people online and stuff does any good. If you are a leader and people are looking to you, you want to, again, lead by example. And so if you are, playing into the pettiness that other people are doing, then they are going to emulate you. And therefore, we're going to be making a generation of people who think that this is normal. And it can be really difficult, but I feel like we don't have to give the other side what they want, which is a lot of times a reaction. I would say an example would be Governor Newsom. He's obviously, trying to poke Trump and provoke him into losing himself and losing his cool and getting that reaction from him. And I will say Trump has done a good job so far of just ignoring it. Sometimes just ignoring a person or just directly talking to that person behind closed doors is a great effective way to resolve conflicts. And it don't have to involve us trying to, do all this name calling online or in person. And it can also stop things from getting out of control where violence enter the picture. So I think if we can learn to lead with more maturity, especially us young people, we want to look up to people who are mature, who will teach us how to avoid, being immature, because when life hits us, we want to be able to respond properly. And so that's a quality that I think is also important, that anyone who wants to be a leader should lead with maturity. Another topic I would say, or quality within a leader that I think can be a little shocking, is that I think leaders should have fun. I think it can be a shock to people, but having fun at appropriate times allows those that you're leading to feel comfortable. It can also lead to situations not being so tense all the time. You don't have to have people not being able to be comfortable around you. I think a leader that can laugh at a joke or crack a joke or, maybe do a silly dance here or there and just can be more approachable, that makes people feel comfortable around that person. And it makes people, once again, feel comfortable being led by that person. And so in this day and age, everything can be so serious. Everything can be gloom and doom. And sometimes we need someone who can help take our minds off of the negative, the gloom and doom. And, just sometimes being able to be comfortable and let loose sometime. And, it can even be something like going out to get drinks or something like that, or just doing karaoke nights or something like that. If you want to be a leader, let people see you in the good and the bad times of life, and let people see that you are someone who don't always just take life so seriously, and that you can bring laughter to people, or lead people into a positive environment, even when things may be looking dark or bad. So I think having fun is not a bad thing. And, I think more of us can learn from leaders who already do that. Again, my mom was one of them. She, would make jokes. My wife knows about all the jokes, some, some appropriate, some not appropriate, but it was good at keeping us taking our mind off things and allowing us to be comfortable with our mom. And our mom didn't take no mess, but it wasn't always just do this and do that. It was also times where we could all laugh and go out and have fun. And I think people will admire that as well. So if you want to be a good leader, don't be afraid to have fun sometime. I think a lot of people appreciate that, and it'll make it easier to lead when people are not as tense and they're more comfortable with you. I also think something that can get overlooked today, and can also be misconstrued, is leaders should care about those he or she is leading. They shouldn't just see them as people to boss around. We shouldn't also just be telling people how they should be led, but we should also seek the people that we're leading, seek their input, get them involved into the cause, allow them to get leadership opportunities. Don't be afraid to give them opportunities to take the reins a little bit and mentor them so that they can develop their skills and become better versions of themselves. But also balancing that with being sympathetic and empathetic, so if you are a leader within a group and someone says, hey, I had a family emergency or something like that, or if they, God forbid, end up in a hospital or something, don't just be like, well, the show goes on. Take some time to go visit them at the hospital, try to make them feel better, offer condolence to them, give them a hug. Don't be afraid to be human and show empathy, as well as leading and, telling people what to do when it's needed. But I think a lot of people will, again, want to be led by someone who shows that they care about them as a person. And that can get lost in today's leadership, in any facet of life. They just see people as those that they should be telling what to do, and they don't see them as human beings. These are people who have feelings. Life get in the way sometimes. Be understanding when things arise. If there's emergencies and stuff like that, be understanding. Don't always just be cold and callous. And I think if you, want to be a leader, learn how to be, compassionate about people, but do it in an appropriate way. You don't want to be always just emotion, and you're allowing your emotions to dictate your leadership skills and, your direction of how to lead people, because you're just leading by feeling. So it do need to be a balanced approach. But I would say that you don't want the other extreme where you're just being callous and heartless and you're not really showing that you care about people. A leader should be about people. So I think that's something that leaders should also have. I just want to name a few Republican leaders throughout history, just a few that have been, I think, great examples of leaders within the conservative and Republican movement, from Abraham Lincoln to, being a leader during that Civil War time period. That was a very difficult thing for him to do. Theodore Roosevelt, once again, he was someone who was not afraid to speak up for causes he believed in, protect the national parks. He had military experience where he had to face enemy under fire. He was someone who led with compassion. And I think that's something we need to continue in today's conservative movement as well, especially for us young people. Everyone knows about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, I would say, that was a good example of someone who was the leader of the free world at the time. And, he was facing some real serious situations with the, situation going on with, the Soviet Union and things like that. But he also was someone who told jokes and someone who knew how to make people feel comfortable around him. And that leads to my example of having fun. Donald Trump, I don't think he needs much of a introduction, but again, he is someone who is not afraid to speak his mind, is not afraid to stand up for causes he believes in. And I think he's inspired a lot of us young people into wanting to speak out on things that we care about and not be afraid to speak when you believe something is worthy of being spoken about. And so these are just some examples of leaders in the Republican movement that have been great leaders. And so I will also just say that in closing, that if you are a young person and you want to be a leader, try to take these qualities. Again, have fun, lead with passion, care about people, and be mature in times when you can be, and seek unity even among those you are trying to lead. And you never know, you might end up leading even those who don't agree with you. And if you're young, don't be afraid, be bold, and be ambitious. This is Artist Jackson with Young Conservative Voices, and you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.
You've been listening to Voices of the Future with Artist Jackson, a presentation of the Silicon Valley Young Republicans. For comments and suggestions or to get involved, email svyr.gop@gmail.com. That's svyr.gop@gmail.com.